Hello, everybody. It's Linda Morrison here from Ageless Body and Ageless Business. This is the Art of Listening series 3. When I started this whole series back in November, I didn't think that there may be a series 3, but I'm very, very proud to be back here where we are literally organizing ourselves to make sure and talk to the best people in the world whom have used really, really great listening skills to build their lives, to build their businesses, and to also expand some great stuff and great creativity. So, what is the art of listening in effect? I think that a lot of people think that, well, we all know we are more engaged when we are speaking than when we are listening. But listening is not just the act of hearing the word spoken. The art of listening is the ability to actively be open to understanding what the person is meaning and for them to experience the feeling of being heard. The art of listening is where we replace judgment with curiosity when we're hearing someone speak. Everyone, and you will find lots online and social media at the moment, is all about look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me, look at me. But when it comes to someone else's turn to speak or try to have the experience of feeling heard, there's not a lot of time for them. So, all of the people that I've got to interview, we've had profound interviews, and I've done over 200 hours of work with people since November. It's been quite amazing of what they draw on to be able to use their fabulous listening skills to be able to help others to move forward. And this could be people whom are athletes or coaches or criminologists or energy therapists or Reiki therapists and beyond. So I'm really, really proud today to actually be here with Annie Bourke to interview her in the art of listening. And she is an human relationships enricher. And I'm going to get Annie to tell you a little bit more about what she does. And then we'll get on to some really exciting stuff that she's been doing and what she's doing this year and beyond. Hi, Annie.
Hi, Linda, and thank you for that. Yes, so that's me in a nutshell. I love enriching relationships between animals and humans because a lot of animal parents, as I call them, don't know why their animal's with them or what they want to tell them. And so I do the art of listening in a slightly different way because I'm actually listening to what the animals tell me telepathically. So I have conversations with animals who are living or animals in spirit and answer their humans' questions. And it's just fascinating because the animals just love the opportunity to answer their humans' questions, but also to be able to pass on their own personal messages.
Thank you for saying that, to telling me that. And there's going to be so many more questions in and around that. Um, I absolutely know just from observing people, but also talking to them, that so many people um, have profound relationships with pets and past, and so many conversations are had in and around what animals have brought to their lives and their families' lives over time as well. So childhood memories, all of the rest of it. Um, can you talk a little bit more? Because as anyone well may know, have been a well-being and health coach since I was very young, into my teenage years. Um, so I'm very much about human well-being, but a lot of the time, a lot of conversations happen about people's upbringing around pets in the family. And it tells a lot about the family, but therefore I get a lot of insight to the individual. Can you tell me a little bit about how that might um, play out for someone over the decades in their lives, a pet or yeah.
Yeah. So often people think that animals are pets and they're there for companionship, and it's a way for us to appreciate a soul who's in a different type of body to us. Some people don't understand yet that animals have souls, but they certainly do, which is how I can connect with them. And they feel emotions like we do, but they're also tuned in to us energetically. They're very sensitive to vibrational frequencies. And so, if when we become unwell, our frequency level drops, and our animals can detect that often before we do. And so they will instinctively spend more time with us, lying on us or near us, helping us to get better quicker, because to them, we're their world. They can equally read our moods. So I actually refer to them as uh, mobile mood barometers, because if we're not happy about something, or we're upset, or we're stressed, they can tell that that's happening to us as well. So again, they can be very comforting for us, or they may go and do something deliberately goofy to make us laugh, because they're so smart. They know if they make us laugh, that's instantly going to change the mood and we'll feel better. So, being exposed to animals from an early age, I think, builds respect for the animal and the relationships we can get. And I've discovered that as young children, we can telepathically communicate with animals. So, people may have experienced their young children saying, "Oh, the dog said this," or "the dog said that." And usually the parents think, "Oh, yes, dear, very nice," not understanding that it really is a genuine conversation. And I think that's really important for us as children to know that we can communicate with these beautiful beings and they've got wisdom to share with us. Something happens as we grow up and that ability stops, but it's something that we can reactivate again. And that's what I do in my mentorship program, where I work with people and their animals to master telepathy so they can then communicate with their own animals. And then each phase through our life, I've read so many stories of people saying after their animals passed that, they helped them through the toughest part of their lives. So whether it's, losing someone in the family, or whether it's a relationship breakup, whether it's, having to move home, whether it's surviving an illness, there's these key moments in our lives that our animals are just there in the background, quietly supporting us, but doing some overt things to help comfort us as well. And it's interesting with the well-being, because our animals are actually healing us behind the scenes that many listeners may be unaware of. So there's been a lot of research done to show that animals actually help us reduce high blood pressure. They help reduce the risk of strokes and heart attacks. They help us increase our production of happy hormones and reduce the release of cortisol, which is our stress hormone.
Wow.
They help us to avoid feeling isolated or lonely, or depressed, because we just have to get up in the morning and look after them, feed them, take them for a walk. And it means that we're having to look beyond ourselves because we've got a responsibility for another being, and that's really important for us. But our animals also help evolve our hearts on a spiritual level. And for people who live on their own, their animals are the only opportunity for them to learn to experience receiving and giving love, particularly unconditional love. So there's so many benefits for having an animal that help our well-being
Yeah.
as a human that we're not always aware of.
I thank you for actually saying that because profoundly we've been in lockdown here in Melbourne and we were in the most lockdown city in the world, and it's not something I thought Melbourne would be famous for, but now they are because it's trumped a lot of really cool stuff that Melbourne is. But I felt like I was the only person that didn't get a dog during that time, or a pet or a cat or something. Um, so I could actually see it became a so-called legitimate reason to get out and about and socialize, when there was a time. I even know people and families that had dog walking refusals because everyone wanted to take the dog and the dog was exhausted at the end of the day. So the dog's like, oh, you guys are nuts. What's going on here? But that I could see was absolutely an unbelievable time. The other thing about loneliness that you actually talk about, and this is something that is quite amazing. My last research of stats across Australia was that 12 million people live alone without a partner or a permanent partner in their own home. So there's this idea that everyone's coupled in life. Across sociology, I'm a bit of a geek around this sort of stuff, but there are 12 million people that live alone. Now, that doesn't mean that they might have adult children like me coming in and out, or other families where perhaps they've just lost a husband or a wife or whatever, they're transitioning, or they're just neatly become empty nesters overnight. They're just currently not partnered, but it's 12 million. So if you talk about loneliness, there is actually, it's weaved amongst the way in which we're asked to live now. It's not so much in communities. A lot of people go, oh, we'll just move. There's 600,000 people moving out of Melbourne, since the pandemic. But to be absolutely able to have something in their well-being world, such as a pet, is quite profound. And I do know this, and having worked a lot with depression, suicide, those sorts of things, I absolutely know that some people have only got up out of bed because of their pet.
Yep. And if you've got a dog, then you've got to take it for a walk, which means you're going to socialize with other dog parents and you're going to have some interaction with the dog parents. And
Um,
that's, yeah, it's all part of helping our emotional and psychological well-being as well as our physical fitness as well. So, having an animal just does so many things for you on so many levels. And people just say, oh, yeah, it's just a pet, but it's not. And that's part of the messages that I'm aiming on
Beautiful.
getting out into the
Love it.
world, that I want people to know that they're more than just a pet. They've got a soul. They've chosen to come to earth in an animal body. We've chosen to come to the earth in a human body, but we're still souls. We're here. We each have a soul mission. We've got soul lessons to learn, and we take on particular roles, and the animals certainly do. So they may be here with a guardian role for you, they may be here with a healer role, or they can be a teacher, or they can be a combination of those. And again, once we get to understand them on a deeper level, we can appreciate why they're actually here. So for me, when I first started animal communication 14 years ago, I didn't realize that my cats were with me to help teach me. And once the penny dropped, I said to my girl cat, oh, you're here to teach me. And she said, about time. So
Yeah,
she'd just been
good
waiting
on you. Yeah, good on
patiently
you.
or impatiently in the wings for the penny to drop. And then she could start teaching me. Now, she was a great healer. She knew all about crystals, and I could ask her lots of different questions, and she would give me answers, which I would look up, and they would be 100% accurate. And I believe that, that the teacher animals go to people who have woken up spiritually and need to have their different wisdom to support them on their journeys.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. And I will say this, and having worked with tens of thousands of people over the years, is that quite often, if I move conversations through something else, they give me more. So, as humans, we're all very flawed, and it's very difficult for us to face our flaws. But if we're able to move conversations through learnings, through other ways, we do find, um, we do find that we learn much more if we're open and willing. If we're
Hmm.
open and willing. So thank you for all the work that you're actually doing. Can I just say, or can we just scratch a little bit on? I think you had a different career before this career. What was the leap? What was the jump? But also, what was the frustration in your own? Because I know every time I go to a new level, it's really hard to be at the old level of work. I've got to go to a new level. Very frustrating, very annoying at times. But can you tell me a little bit about that transition? Um,
Yep. So I had a health and business background, but I've always had an affinity with animals going back to when I was 18 months old that I can remember. And that's my passion for animals has just grown as I've grown up as well. And so when I started the animal communication, that was just very ad hoc on the side, just occasional customers while I was working full time in government roles. But then it just got to the point that I realized that this is my life purpose. And if I'm working full time in another role, I just can't give the time and energy to supporting as many animals as I can and assisting their humans. So, yes, that was a big leap of faith a few years ago to resign from my permanent, secure income job and move into, building a business to be able to help support people and animals around the world and in spirit.
yeah.
So, it's been a very challenging journey. Like, I've had to learn so much stuff being a one-woman band. Like, when I wrote my first book, I did a Facebook launch. I'd never done a live on Facebook before, and I had my publisher there ready to help put the links into the books and write comments and answer people's questions. And I read excerpts from the book and talked all about why I wrote it, what motivated me, what my mission is. Got to the end and I thought, oh, wonderful. And then my publisher said, are you ready to start? And I said, oh, I've just finished. And apparently it only showed to me and to no one else. So
Rehearsal, rehearsal. Yeah,
learning curve.
I I hear you. I hear you.
And then I had to learn how to load a video onto YouTube. Fortunately, there are YouTube videos on how to do that, and
It
YouTube
made me laugh.
videos on
Yeah,
how to make a thumbnail to put
yeah.
with your video, like all the
I
basic
love
steps. I just had
YouTube.
to
Yeah,
teach myself how to do all of that. So it's just been in so many areas,
amazing.
how to learn to
Yeah, and
run the
amazing.
business.
Yeah,
Mm,
100%. I could talk for hours on all of that. And
yeah.
I was technically just terrible also 12 years ago. But I've got to say that I really appreciate the work that you have done and do. I have known that this is a profound area for clients and people. And it's so, it's, I think it's marginalized in a way, but energy is everything and it's everywhere, it's all around us. And so I'm very thankful that you're able to go to the world with what you do and the work that you've actually done to help people understand all of this stuff, but also to understand that um, they can really expand themselves through whatever they choose to do, whether it be a pet or their advancement in their well-being or whatever it is. And there is so so many examples that I'm thinking of, and as I'm speaking to you, one of my clients way back when I was working in personal training in Albert Park, and she was a really good fashion designer. And she said, I don't want to do that stuff anymore. It's vacuous. I'm getting to an age where I can't handle the hours. It's, all power, hungry, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to make garments and beds for puppy dogs with my designs. And I'm like, oh my God, is that even going to be a thing? She opened a store in one of the best streets in Albert Park, which was one of the best, arguably, one of the best suburbs in Melbourne, and kicked it. Absolutely, completely kicked it for the next 15 years. And she just had designer stuff for dogs. Mainly dogs, probably cats too, probably other animals. I don't know. Didn't go in there at the time because I was had two babies. But unbelievable. And she couldn't have been happier. She couldn't have been happier. She went to a couple of markets a week. And she transformed her entire life around her dog and her lifestyle with what she was really good at, which was design. So there's so much that you can actually do, and so many ways. Working dogs, I know my grandparents passed away, unfortunately, in nursing homes. There was always a therapy dog or cat or something in there. It was quite incredible. People's faces just like lit up. It was just incredible. So, um, yeah, all these different things around the extension of what, yeah, we can have as human beings. Yeah.
And you've raised a few good points there. A lot of my work is with grieving animal parents, because unfortunately animals don't live as long as we do, and it's just an inevitability of being an animal parent that at some stage we have to say goodbye, even though we never want to have to. But I think part of what I do is bringing hope to animal parents, because through mediumship conversations, you can always connect with your animal in spirit. And it doesn't matter how long ago they passed away, they've taught me that the soul endures. So we can always connect with them. And I think a lot of people feel that once their animal passes away, that's the end of the relationship. But that's not true. Their soul endures. We can always connect with them. And so getting their questions answered, was it your time to pass? Should I have done something else? What do you want to tell me? Are you going to reincarnate? Or getting answers to those questions can give people so much peace of mind and so much hope. And yes, there's rescue animals, there's the assistance animals that help people. We can go and talk to animals in zoos, and I do that a lot. And, I know a lot of animals don't get to talk to humans who can talk to them, and some of them get a bit surprised when a human comes up and wants to talk with them, but it just changes their life. Being able to communicate and tell you what they want you to know when they want you to know it.
Yeah, thank you for saying that. I've got two very different children, one that's right into animals, the other one's just
Hmm.
animals. Yeah, and I've watched that over the years, all the times we had to go to zoos. And we did go to zoos, and I couldn't get one kid out, but the other kid was ready to go. And I thought, this is really weird. Like they've brought up the same, but there's something going on here. And yeah, it's more than I can articulate. And thank you for doing all that work. Also, how are people best to connect with you? And what is your best way that they can work with you at the moment? We'll have links below as well.
Yeah, okay. So email is the best way to contact me. So we'll put the link in below. I've also got my website, which is cosmicheartintuitive.com.au. You can message me through that. I do have some information about my services on there and testimonials and information about my books. On the home page, I've actually got 4 free guides for animal parents to download. So there's an introduction to animal communication, how to cope with pet loss, how to introduce a new animal to your household, and rescuing the rescues, because so many people have rescue animals now, and it's having a greater awareness of what they may have experienced and what they're still experiencing on an emotional or psychological
Yeah.
level so that we can help them. So, yes, they're the 2 ways. But, yes, what do I offer? I've got 3 books which help people again understand more about animal soul journeys and the more spiritual side of animals. And my other book I wrote was for people awakening to their spiritual being, because when I woke up, I didn't know I was waking up. I didn't know that you could wake up. I'd never read anything about it, and I had no idea why I was experiencing all of these weird things. So it's just a guide that introduces people to lots of different concepts to help them navigate their journey with more certainty. So that's why I've written them, to get those messages out. So I do conversations with animals living and in spirit, and that can be just from one question. If you've just got one burning question for an animal, I also offer packages of questions that can be shared over 2 animals. I also have a mentorship program where I work with an animal parent and two of their animals or mine so they can master the various concepts of telepathic communication. So, particularly for people who are animal professionals, whether they're dog walkers or whether they pet sit, it's a huge advantage being able to talk to the animals to, de-escalate anxiety and explain that their humans will be back. They're definitely coming home. And they can count the sleeps down. They understand the concept of time, so that really helps as well.
Yeah.
So they're the main programs that I offer. And then I've got, as part of my conversations with animals, I get told a crystal. And I love working with crystals, but sometimes the crystal is for the human to use with the animal to help them. And sometimes when the humans read the healing properties of the crystal, they realize it's actually for them as well. And they need to work with it and
Yeah.
meditate with it. So I also offer some services about identifying the crystal, which will help humans and animals.
Got it. Thank you so much. That's a lot of stuff.
Yep.
I've talked to Annie about, giving too much, and she's amazing because it's a lot to unpack, and especially when it's your best friend or second bestie or was your bestie and then they've passed or whatever,
Yep.
whatever it is in your family. Um,
You've just reminded me, I also offer giving again, my free master classes every month. And they're on all sorts of different topics. So I've
yeah,
talked about animal communication, healing, um,
yeah. So
reincarnation, how to cope with loss, lots of different topics. So people can find that on my website as well.
yeah, 100%. So I would recommend that you hop on a masterclass with Annie and obviously check out her links. But just to make sure that you open yourself up because it's you're doing it for your animal, but you're doing it for you too. So there's like what is it? It's grief and loss is a love loss job lot. We are all in this together, and whomever we choose to help lead us it's a big deal. It's a big deal. This is why I'm addicted to coaching or leadership or whatever it is that I do. It's lots of different things, but basically, you've really got to be in a space where you're open to learn and the person leading you who's responsible and fabulous takes you to somewhere that you can't even imagine. And that's why we need each other. So thank you so much, Annie, here for being here on The Art of Listening. Clearly, you listen, and that delights my heart and why I'm doing this entire series. But also, there's no judgment in what we get to learn, you know, and it's everything's uptick, and there's uh there's no shame if you didn't know better before. When you just do better, you know. So some people might not have, they didn't know when they were 10 how to look after an animal or what to do, then they know better. When they know better, they do better. And that opens them up to so, so, so much more. And that's a world that I'm definitely committed to.
And I think that's true that a lot of people aren't aware that animals understand everything that we say. And so they love us having a verbal conversation. So after listening to this episode, if you go and look at your animal and tell them that you love them, it will change your relationship with them. They know that you love them, but hearing you saying it, love is a high frequency word, and our animals respond to frequencies, and that can just change. They've got extensive vocabularies when I have conversations with them and when I'm doing their mentorship program. The words that they know are amazing, and some of them I've never heard of before. And when I look them up in the dictionary, they're there. So they're incredibly
Wow.
wise beings, and that's part of their purpose is to help support us. So it's being open and understanding that yes, you can have a profound conversation with your animal, even if you've never thought about that before, and just how they answer your questions just changes your relationship with them as well. And that's part of what I do is help change the dynamics of the relationship.
Amazing. And communication is everything, which I think we touched on this week with stuff, is that and how you're communicating. And just because you think it doesn't mean people know what you're thinking, or an animal or anything knows what you're thinking. But being clear, as clear as you can be, with what you got is so terribly, terribly important. Um, I've got to say, this has been so much fun for me, Annie. So thank you for being here with us, and thank you for helping all the people and little ones that you do. So I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I just love, helping people to understand more about their animals because there's such richness we can get from truly understanding them on a deeper level. And it, helps our animals and it helps us.
100%. Science is
Mm,
in. The science is in. So yeah. Thank you so much. And if you need to reach out to either of us, the links are actually below. Thank you, Annie.
thank you.